Hey friends, Ellen here. Just a note ahead of this episode with Shredly. A lot of you know that Marley is sponsored by Shredly, but this episode is not. We were just excited to talk to Ashley about how she and her brand are changing the industry one piece of clothing at a time. None of this is intended to be an endorsement or a commercial. She's just super cool and has a great reason to have created her brand, and we wanted to bring that to the world. Enjoy.
Welcome to All Bodies on Bikes, the podcast, where all bodies are good bodies, all bikes are good bikes, and all rides are celebrated.
All Bodies on Bikes is a movement to create and foster a radically inclusive bike community. So join your hosts, I'm Ellen,
And I'm Marley,
as we explore the complexities of the biking world. Help us break down barriers and create the world that we want to see.
and don't forget that all bodies really means all bodies, not just larger bodies, but bodies of all sizes,
Ages,
races,
abilities,
genders,
sexualities.
and beyond. Come along for the ride.
How are you, Marley?
I am really good. How are you, Ellen?
I'm good. I am digging this hat look that you've got going on.
Thank you.
Like
It's mainly
corduroy.
it's a corduroy hat. It's very well timed because it's actually our guest today. So it's for people listening on the radio. It's a Shredly hat, and we are
This is
interviewing.
a podcast.
It's a podcast, but there's visual elements, right?
You said the radio.
Oh, okay. Now,
Like, you're showing our age.
whatever. If it's coming through speakers, to me, it's the radio. It's fine.
Okay, go.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, anyway, if you're listening to it, you can't see my hat. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can see my hat and you'll see that it says Shredly, which I think a lot of folks know that I am sponsored by them. They are my apparel sponsor and I love wearing them and talking about them. But today we have the founder and the CEO with us on the podcast today, which I am super excited about. So I figured it was appropriate to wear my Shredly hat.
absolutely. Plus, it looks
Yeah.
super fly.
Thank you. Everything that I wear from them makes me look super fly. And we'll get into this, but literally, I never felt cute on a bicycle until I started wearing Shredly clothes.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that that's like momentous for you.
Yeah, and Ashley and I can we can talk about how we met and like how this all started. But I'm actually more interested in like the company story, but it is an interesting story. Before we get too far down this rabbit hole, let me read her bio and then we'll bring her in. Although Ashley grew up in the mountains of Colorado, she used to dream of living in a big city as a high-end fashion designer. After a design internship in Florence, Italy, she realized two things. She simultaneously never wanted to leave Italy, and she belonged in the mountains. Not only did Ashley end up back in the mountains, but she found herself dreaming of beautiful bike shorts instead of evening wear, which led to the founding of Shredly, meaning Ashley now believes she was always meant to do. Shredly is a women's mountain bike and active wear apparel company that's redefining the way we think about gear, blending functionality, comfort, and bold, expressive style. Born out of Ashley Rankin's passion for the outdoors and her frustration with the lack of options for women in cycling apparel, Shredly has become a leader in creating inclusive, high performance gear that empowers women of all shapes, sizes, and styles to hit the trails with confidence. From their vibrant patterns to their commitment to sustainability and inclusivity, Shredly is proving that adventure can and should look as good as it feels. Welcome to the show, Ashley.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thanks for being here.
I'm excited to dig into this because I think a lot of us have heard of Shredly or we've seen it and people wearing it or they've seen it on my Instagram. But I'm excited to hear about how this all came about and some of the nuts and bolts behind it. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited to get into it too, especially with you.
I have one clarifying question. Did
Yes.
you stay in Italy?
No, I
Oh,
did not.
where
I
you
did
live?
not. So I'm from Colorado and I went back to Colorado after Italy.
All
Yes.
right.
But I've been back to Italy since actually twice. So it's
Nice.
one of my favorite. I could keep going there all the time. I want to see so many places in the world, but I'm never bummed to go back to Italy.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
my feelings on Italy too.
Yeah, I've actually never been to Italy. I've been all around and like Italy is on my bucket list of places to
Oh,
go. So
it's just, it really is magical. There's like those places that you see in the movies and they create this certain feel, and you're like, oh, it'd be so dreamy to go there. And sometimes you go to those places and you're like, yeah, that was in the movies. You go there and you feel like you imagine you would in the movies.
And
mm,
it's
I want
truly
to go with you, Marley.
it's truly difficult to find bad pasta. That was
Oh,
like I was so scared that I was going to do it wrong, and I don't think you can.
oh, no. And even table wine, which is like not branded, it's a very different experience to drink wine there than it is here. Table wine is great. The whole everything in Italy is better.
Oh,
So
I
so
believe
true.
it. Well, we're not here to talk about Italy,
We could
unfortunately.
though. Maybe
Although
we need to have a separate one for that.
I think this ties really into our conversation. So you were doing a design internship, is that correct? In
Mhm.
Florence. How did you go from wanting to do like evening wear and I imagine like couture to designing mountain bike apparel and really transforming the women's cycling apparel industry?
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. Yeah, it's really funny because I had no interest in outerwear. I wanted to be a designer since I was little. I knew I always wanted to be a fashion designer. And I grew up in Colorado and I lived in a rural part of Colorado. And I could not wait to I loved the mountains, but I couldn't wait to be in the city. And I wanted to live in a city in an apartment, take an elevator to my apartment. I had this idea of what I really wanted, and it was to design evening wear and high end couture. And I didn't really make clothes from scratch, but I would take clothes that I owned and I would embellish them. So I would take denim and buy this cool fringe, like with beads, and put it around the bottom. So I was always into these beautiful embellishments. And I even went all the way through college. I got a degree in apparel design and production, and I was not interested in outerwear. But I grew up mountain biking and skiing and doing all of these things. It just was not the side of design that I wanted to go into. And it wasn't until I actually came back from Italy and went back to the mountains because I had this moment in Italy where I knew I wanted to stay and I'd fallen so in love with the culture and the life, but I was in Switzerland and I was on a mountain and I could see really far and I just felt like home. And then I missed home and I was really homesick. And so I knew, okay, there are parts of me that are just ingrained of me that I had to leave to understand how much a part of me they were. And one of that was like being in nature and having clean air to breathe. And even the parks in Italy are beautiful, but it's not the same as being outside. And so I did feel like very torn. And I went back to Colorado and knew that living in the mountains would not really give me the path to the design life that I had dreamed and imagined. And even then, I was like, I'm really just not interested in going to outdoor. It doesn't really satisfy it for me. But I started riding a ton and would start to see these visions of the kinds of shorts and apparel that I wanted to be riding in that didn't exist. And then I'd see other really cool things in like homeware. Like I'd see a really beautiful pillow or a really cool shower curtain and be like, why can't we have cute shorts that have that pattern? And so it really just came from like being a user of the product that didn't exist and then having my design world and my passions collide. And then I started to see things that I wanted and I couldn't stop thinking about it. So it really just came to me and then was pulled from me. And I had never started a business. I wasn't an entrepreneur. I didn't even want to be an entrepreneur. I just wanted to make cute shorts for me and my friends. And we started talking about what those cute shorts would be. My one friend, who was a professional writer at the time, really wanted the comfort aspect. And my other friend had her own ideas about the fabric that she wanted. And then I had the ideas about the style that I wanted. And we put everything together to design what was our perfect short. And I asked them if they wanted to start this business with me. And they both had their own career paths. And they were like, no, but you should do it. And so I had a full-time job and one thing led to another. And then I realized, well, I am going to start a brand, but I don't know how to do that. So mine was always very product based. Okay, well, I only need a brand name because I have to put something on the shorts. But how do I get these shorts made? And it was really just one little thing after another of how I bring these shorts into the world that led to the creation of Shredley.
What year was that?
So we had this brainstorming thing in 2011, 2010, like in that time period. And it wasn't until 2012 that I actually launched our first Kickstarter because I was just doing all of this on the side. I had a full-time job through it all. So I would work on it at nights and in the week on the weekends. And it took me a while to get things going.
To be fair, you still work on this nights and weekends. I get a lot of late night emails from you.
I do. I do. One thing to know about being an entrepreneur is that you think you might have like more control over your schedule, which you do, but you work all the time. There's never off hours.
Yeah. I was looking around on Reddit before this because it's helpful to know what the world is talking about Shredley, and everybody sings your praises. I obviously sing your praises, but for the quality, for how they fit, how do you balance all three of those? Fit, what am I
Quality.
talking about? Help me out, Ellen.
Fit,
Performance and design.
performance, and
Yep,
design.
there we go.
Yeah. Well, I think let's talk about what Shredley started from, like where we started. So we started in Colorado. Our manufacturing was all in the States for the first 10 years. And being a user of the product and coming from wanting to design high-end apparel. And also when I started this, I was working in luxury real estate. So I had just learned to do things with a very high standard. And I think all of those things shaped what I thought was really important about the business. And in my original business plan, if you look back, and I think we even had a graphic on our website, it was this Venn diagram of style, comfort, and performance. And they all combined to make Shredly. And so I just knew from the beginning, like those were the key things. And I really started with a value based model. So we didn't start with a retail price point that we had to meet and then build the product backwards from there. We started with what is the ideal product that we need. And it came to shape. The product built itself and quality was just inherent in it because it was one of our core values, like the performance piece of it, the comfort piece of it. Like you can't really source cheap fabric that's not comfortable. So it's just because of the principles that we knew that were core to Shredly, it meant that quality products were part of that. So balancing it all is actually not that hard because something doesn't look beautiful to me if it's not quality. And so I think just part of the aesthetic really sets the standard for the product. And so there are certain times where the feel of a fabric doesn't feel quite right. It doesn't feel like a quality fabric. And so I think that it's just throughout the design process, it's knowing what Shredly is and then sourcing things that kind of meet that standard. And so if one thing is off, you don't feel like you're ticking all three boxes.
That totally makes sense. And I love that staying true to your values really helps make sure that your quality standards are met, which is super, super cool.
It's a bit of keeping the customer in mind at the core of it too. You didn't want to wear shorts that felt bad or looked bad. That was the whole point.
Exactly. And one of the things that I was talking about, one of my friends' point of view from the fabric was it's like the fabric's so loud and crunchy. Can we find something that's softer and more comfortable? And that was the comfort piece. And that's what product at this time, which I know you might touch on this, Marley, if we go back to 2010, what bike apparel looked like, especially for women, it was drastically different than it is today. It was like 15, 20 years behind street style. Like you look at pictures of what we're wearing 10 years ago, and it looks like it was 20, 25 years ago. And things were just in a very different place than they are now. And we definitely had a piece of kind of shaping that at a time when the market was really hungry for something like that, something new and different and very focused on the women's side of things.
Very cool. One of the things that Shredly is also known for that I imagine is challenging to balance is sustainability. I was looking on your website and I think I read something like 97% of products are made with recycled materials.
Mhm.
How do you incorporate sustainability in? I imagine like that is not an easy thing to do, especially with manufacturing and you've got a large number of SKUs and it's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. So we are proud that 93% of all of our goods right now are made from recycled materials. And there's a couple different ways that you can approach sustainability, which I learned so much about. So having centralized production is one of them. So like when we had everything made in the States and our factory, our warehouse, everything was in the States, you didn't have to transport it all over the place. And there's some great savings there in terms of sustainability. As you diversify your supply chain, then it's decentralizing and all of your raw materials, right? So you can tackle it a couple different ways. And it's hard. It's really hard because it's not as easy as saying, okay, we're going to source all sustainable materials because you have to think about it throughout your entire supply chain. So what we do is whenever we have a choice, some things we don't have a choice at our size, which is a little bit frustrating, but whenever we have a choice, so is there a fabric that you can source that's more sustainable than another, then we'll always make that choice. And so it's a really hard thing to balance because it affects your margins. It affects the retail price point that people are willing to pay. And sustainability is really important to people. But is the consumer willing to pay more for it? Not always. And so when you're already offering a premium product, it is something that is always a challenge, but it's always top of mind. So we really just stay true to our guiding light is what is our goal and how do we get there? And we're not perfect by any means. We'd like to get to 100% recycled material, but that's not the only thing. Then it's your supply chain and it's where things are moving and coming from, all of your packaging materials. And so there's a lot of different elements to it. And I'm glad that we started with that, because I think if you don't start there and it's not core to your business, it's always a very hard thing to justify when it comes to the bottom line, because it's a shift from where you are. So we actually, before it became the cool thing to do in the industry, we switched over to recycled material. And so that was about 5 years ago. So we had already made this big shift and decided to move away from non-recycled materials. So that has definitely made it a lot easier, because we were doing that sooner than a lot of other brands. And the supply chain, first of all, knows everybody wants this, so it's becoming more readily available, but it is also a profit channel across the
Mm,
supply chain. There's just a lot of different things to weigh.
yeah.
And as a small business, you don't always have efficiencies of scale. So you have to do the best you can and always look for opportunities to keep improving.
Yeah. I think another one of the places that you've been leading the industry is with size inclusion. And why was that something that you wanted to bring into play as well?
I feel like there's been this paradigm shift in just the last couple of years where that conversation is more forefront for a lot of brands. We didn't do it from a inclusivity point of view. We did it because we had customers that we were not meeting their needs. So I the word inclusion means a lot, and we use it often to convey a point. We try to not tout that inclusion is our goal, because I think that for the people whose needs we are not meeting, that does not feel inclusive to them. And there's always going to be people that are falling outside of that. And so our goal is to just be an authentic brand that caters to women. That's our customer. Women come in all shapes and sizes. And so if there's a demand for our product, we should be striving to meet that demand. And by just doing that, you are not being exclusive. So for me, inclusion is just not intentionally being exclusive. Some brands' goal is to just hit a certain target, and they cannot get approval for expanding their SKU count. One of the
Oh, yeah.
beautiful things about being a small brand, there's tons of challenges, is that I'm in charge. I get to make that decision. Is there always a profitability case for it? No. But we find those values in other ways. For instance, we might not sell as many sizes on the fringe, which means like outside of your bell curve. If you're watching right now, I'm making a bell curve. So we sell the most
Beautiful
of the
bell curve.
median sizes, like most brands do. And
And let's
that's,
get specific real quick. Stradley
yeah,
makes everything from a size 0 to a 24, correct?
00 to
Double
24.
0 to a 24, both on the small end of things and on the bigger end of things. Just so folks
Yes.
know, when we're talking about sizes, that's what we're talking about.
And I'll
Yes.
chime in too if you're not a retail person. SKU, which you've maybe heard a couple times already, is SKU, and it's basically how many different items you are selling.
Yes. Both
Okay.
good distinctions. Good job.
Yes.
So normally you sell the most of your median, so your middle sizes like 4, 6, 8, 10. That's what we sell the most of. And then your fringe sizes, which are the smaller sizes and the larger sizes, you don't sell as much of. But what I've told Marley before is that we find that people come to our brand that are median size because we sell the fringe sizes, and they feel that's really important, and they want to support a brand that offers sizes for women of all shapes and sizes. And so really, again, if we go back to our core values, when we first started, I'm on the smaller side, I'm on the fringe, and we didn't make my size because we couldn't launch with that many sizes. The first year we launched was 0 to 12. I knew that's not where we would stop. That's just where we needed to start. And then we added 00, and we went to 16, I think, and then 18, and then 24. And who really led that for us were the vocal customers, some of them angry, some of them kind. Like, I know, and if you haven't worked in the industry, you don't know some of the things behind the scenes that steer this. Like, for example, the first factories that we worked with have a long cutting table. They lay your fabric out on the table, and then they cut all of the sizes from that length. If they have to lay your fabric out more than one time, it costs you double the cutting fees.
Hmm.
And so literally you can only fit so many sizes in that width, and then they stack your fabric. And so it all comes down to a puzzle
Oh.
piece of how they fit things together. So when some companies say that's not cost effective, they're not wrong, because this does change your production. It changes the number of bins you need at the warehouse, and they charge you per bin. So Ellen, when you said SKU, if you add another size in 2 colors, that's 2 different SKUs, because it's a bin per SKU. So per size, per color, per style. So you can imagine That
That's
if
a
you're
big old
paying,
matrix.
yes, and if you only have one unit that you're storing in that bin, there comes a point in time when you're paying more to store that item than you are making in your margin selling that item. So there are all these things to consider, and you have to weigh. You have to weigh, is it purely like a monetary decision, or for us it's a value based decision? And so that goes back to just know, I knew when I started Shredly that I wanted to start a brand of multi-use apparel for women, which meant they could use it for mountain biking, but all the other things that most mountain bikers do. And I knew that for it to be a true like women's brand, that it needed to cater to women of all shapes and sizes. And then, so these decisions were easy for me. It was just a matter of finding factories that would work with us and figuring out how we can work within the system that we cannot change, short of having our own warehouse, short of having our own cutting room. How do we work within the realm of what's possible? And it's always possible. It just comes at a cost or a reality. Some of those for us is just a reality, and we don't view it as a cost that we're trying to get rid of. We're just trying to work around it.
Yeah. Marley, I saw your face light the heck up when we started talking about size inclusivity and how Shredly's like attacking it, if you will. So I wanted to just give you a chance to chime in and share
Yeah.
what
Well,
it's to you.
I think my Shredly origin story is really fun. So I went to, if folks have been following me for a long time, you know that I have not been a mountain biker for a long time. It's really just been in the past couple years that I've started getting into mountain biking. And in I think it was 2022, I was invited to Rome Fest in Knoxville. Rome Fest is a women, trans, femme, it's a femme mountain bike festival. And they had one in Knoxville, Tennessee that year. And I was on a panel. I think they showed our film or something. But Shredly was there as an exhibitor. And I remember walking by, and Ashley called me over and was like, "Hi, I'm really excited to meet you. You got to try on our clothes." And I was like, "I don't think you're going to have anything that fits me," because that had been my experience with so many other brands. I think I was around a size 20 at the time, maybe a 22, a little bigger than I am now. And I was like very skeptical. And she was like, "No, come back after whatever you're doing, and I want you to try some stuff on." Because if you've seen Shredly at events, they have this beautiful trailer that has a fitting room inside of it with
Nice.
tons of different styles and sizes. And so I was like, okay. And so I went back and I tried stuff on, and I don't think I cried, but I think I wanted to cry because it fit. And I had never had that experience before. And at the time I had a different apparel sponsor, but the conversation started between me and Ashley, and it has never stopped. And since last year, 2023, I've been sponsored by Shredly as my apparel partner, and we've done some really cool stuff, which I think we'll get into. But maybe we should just talk about it now. We released the Marley capsule collection last year, based all around this manatee, which we can tell that story if we want to. And we're doing it again this year, which is super exciting.
Yeah. And it's super cool for me too, because, well, I have to talk about the story that Marley just told. So when she came into the trailer, not only did she get to try on a pair of shorts that fit, but she got to pick between different inseam lengths. She got to pick between different colors. And I vividly remember her being like, "Wait, there's more that I can pick from. Like, I have choices." And I think that's one of the biggest things that we hear from women of all sizes. Like, I have choices. I can pick from inseams and colors and waistband styles. And that did not exist, which kind of blew my mind. When I first started researching what are the options out there, I was like, what am I missing? Like, why
Yeah.
are there not more options? Why are there not all of these things that we take so much pride in doing?
Thought of when you mentioned how far behind the industry was like 10 years ago is like you could get black and white or you could get black.
Yeah.
The
Maybe
end.
Or
pink.
black.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it's
Did
like
you say black?
even, yeah, I said black. I mean, every now and then they put a pink outline on it because you're a
Yeah.
woman.
Yeah.
But it's like there wasn't the selection if you wanted the quality or if you were just getting into it. There wasn't that good mix of stuff. I can only imagine that's exacerbated for if you are not one of those average sizes.
I think one of the other things that I love about Shredly in the size inclusion realm is it's not just in the products, but in your marketing, in your ambassadors, in your photography on the website. And when I do consulting for companies on size inclusion, that's basically what I'm educating them to do or preaching at them to do is you have to show real bodies wearing this stuff, because if we don't see ourselves represented in your marketing or on your website, we're not going to buy your stuff. And it's funny, talking about Reddit earlier, I just pulled out this quote that somebody had put in. Somebody wrote, "Oh my God, looking through more of the website and they show plus size with cellulite. I could cry. That's so empowering." And a little crying face emoji.
Oh.
And I'm like, that's probably my picture. Just thinking about that.
You
So,
are so empowering, Marley. You're not even
no.
trying. Look at you go.
Yeah, just standing there cute with my cellulite.
Yes, because we just got off a call with Emily Chappell, right? And that was part of it, is just seeing yourself represented in a
Mhm.
normal situation. It's not that you've been selected to be the token fat person on this website. You are just in it and you're part of this scene. You're part of Shredly.
Yeah.
You are not the person that they said, "Oh, cool. Could we get you in 3 different poses so that we can be inclusive?" It is,
Mhm.
we've designed it for you, with you in this exact instance, to make it something that you are so proud and eager to wear. There is empowerment. I think there's, within fashion, even, it's fashion wanting to look good almost gets like this bad rap of
You're vain.
you're vain, or it's too girly, like what it's been like associated with a vapid sort of mindset. But no,
Mhm.
like how you feel about how you look impacts your day. And this can have such a big impact to the cycling world and people feeling comfortable, which is one of the barriers of people getting out and getting on a bike. If you feel like you aren't going to be yourself in these clothes, you are not going to show up as your authentic self at that ride.
It's so true. You totally nailed it. And it's hard to explain to people that don't get it. And I don't know that men have the same like rush when you put
You're
something
kidding.
on that just makes you feel cool and like the pattern excites you and the colors excites you. Sometimes you squeal. Like there are a lot of squeals that come from the trailer because there's just this emotional side to apparel that not everybody has. And some women could care less. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's not just about vanity. It is like very confidence inspiring. And I remember we have had a number of people share this with us, but I remember early on, I got an email from a woman who was in like her 50s or 60s. And she said, I'm a new mountain biker. Like, I'm really intimidated, but I can't tell you how much confidence I have just in my living room wearing this apparel because it makes me feel good. And that's what it's all about. And so you can't really explain that till you've experienced it. But just knowing that we're giving that confidence to people is really inspiring for us. And it's so nice when people take the time to share those stories with us because it's honestly something that I knew how excited I got when I saw a pattern that made me really happy. And oh my gosh, I want those to be a pair of shorts. And then they turn into a pair of shorts. And I'm like, oh my gosh, look at how great they are. But to hear it coming from other people, I could not have tried to create that part of the culture of our community if I had tried. It just authentically came with the brand. And I've realized now how powerful that is for other people besides just me.
It
Yeah,
makes
I
our
can
life.
attest to it. That black jumpsuit, I put that on and I feel like I am like the queen of the world. I've worn it for like probably 5 different keynote speeches. I've worn it
Yeah.
mountain biking. I've worn it all over the place. Like,
Didn't you wear that to the event when you were here in KC? Wasn't that the same one?
I believe so. Yeah.
You did. You felt like you put it on and you were just like, this is like a second skin. You were so comfortable in it.
Yeah,
Oh, I love
exactly.
that.
So
I want
I'm
one.
curious about any critical feedback you've received as a brand over the years and how that has forced you to improve things or change things. What has that side of things been like?
hmm Yeah, we actually did very early on. And it was devastating at first because I don't think anybody knows the blood, sweat, and tears that go on behind the scenes and how hard it is to start a business. And then to have somebody so casually feel like they can just shit all over it. And so it took me some time to mature into being open to that and using that. So now I view it completely differently than I did in the beginning. In the beginning, it was like, oh my gosh, if they knew how hard I was working, and then to just be so shut down by things that aren't true. Like I remember our first marketing campaign, I had seen this super cool high top tennis shoe ad and it was like high fashion. And there were women that were just wearing black briefs and it was all from behind and they weren't wearing tops. And everything was in black and white except for the tennis shoes. And I thought that it was so cool and it was the type of edgy marketing that I wanted to do for the brand, so different from everything else, like all the sameness in the market. And so we mimicked that because we also got our samples in the dead of winter. Like we could not go mountain biking anywhere. And I gathered my friends, like whoever were available to come do this photo shoot with us. And we did the same thing. So the shorts were in color, but everything else was in black and white. And for the most part, everybody thought that it was like fun and edgy. But there was this woman from Alaska who said that we were objectifying women and it was just like so soul crushing because I found that to be empowering. This is all about the shorts. We're making this campaign all about the shorts. And I've learned so much since then, but it was really disheartening that she viewed me as like the enemy and that I
Mhm.
wasn't for women and that I was not respecting women by using this campaign. So that was the very first one that was really hard, but I had to learn very quickly that your biggest critics can help you a lot because they help you be better. They make your product better. They make you aware of gaps in the market that you're not hitting. And it is why we listen so much to our customers that, or even I would say, probably not our customers, but the people we want to be our customers that are our critics. My goal is to win them over. Like, how do we use what they're saying for good to steer the direction of our product so that if we can win this person over, we are doing a really good job at our job. And so it was really hard at first, but now it's like my team, we all joke, we have multiple personalities. There's a customer care personality, and you like put on this one persona when there's somebody that's not happy, and you can separate yourself from taking it personally. And so as a designer, when I hear critical feedback, I go into design mode of, okay, that's a problem that now I'm going to solve, instead of taking it really personally and dwelling on it. And so I've gotten better at using that to our advantage.
I feel like there's
That's
got
so
to be
hard.
like two categories. Is this a problem or is this an opinion?
You're so right, because some of it's just noise. And
Yeah.
some people, there is no ever solving it or making it happy. And so you do have to be able to decipher between that. And that's a good distinction.
Yeah.
You mentioned briefly that you have a team. So started Shredly just as yourself. How has the brand grown over the years, and how many people do you employ now?
So we are still really small. You'll be surprised. A lot of people are surprised to know that we are only 3 full-time people. We have a handful of really key contractors that we work with, but in terms of just full-time in-house, we're 3 people. So that includes me and 2 other people who are like my stars. I'm really lucky to have an amazing, small, scrappy team.
I love that. I love that. And this is going to sound so cheesy when I say it. Shredly is more than just an apparel brand. It really has become a movement within the mountain biking community. You host multiple retreats throughout the years and really build up this community. How do you see your role, Shredly's role, in the women's mountain biking community?
Yeah, that's a great question. That again, if I go back to when I first started Shredly, I would have never guessed. Like, it was all about the product. But once I started to realize how important our community was, not only for us and the brand, but for the people in that community. Like, it is, people have found a place to belong in Shredly. And that is like very emotional for me. And so thinking about, I think there's just so, when it comes to retail, when it comes to consumerism, I think that people really want to believe in the brands that they support. And so for us, we really want to lean into that community piece of it. Yes, we are making products, but there's so much more than that. And then all the things that we do with the products are so communal based. Like, cycling is such a community sport. You can do it individually, which is great, but it just creates its own community. So really leaning into that. I think creating community outside of cycling. Well, number one, our goal is to be the number one women's cycling brand. So to grow outside of mountain bike and kind of do what we've done for mountain bike in these other disciplines.
Which, as a
And
gravel girly, I am very excited about.
which Marley has been, we have a product that's launching this spring it's because of Marley. She's helping us launch that product. So that will be exciting. But really just looking, okay, what's the opportunity in the cycling world? And then outside of cycling, how can we bring others into our community? We have tons of women who love our shorts that don't even ride. And I don't want them to feel excluded, like they're not part of our community. So just creating this general community around Shredly and then all of these little sub communities is how I envision the future of it. And that includes things outside of product, which is experiences like you talked about, Marley. We have found that we host retreats that allow all of these really amazing customers and people who are actually new to Shredly to come and get together and have this magical experience and focus on their skills and just explore themselves as either a mountain biker or someone that just wants to be part of the community. And big picture, what does it look like if you are a brand that really focuses on community? And then one of the things that you offer as products is an exciting way for us to look at how we want to position ourselves in the future.
Oh man, it makes me like excited to think about how like I've played a part in that. I think when we were at Sea Otter last year, when we released the first Marley capsule collection, just people coming up and saying, "Oh my God, I'm so excited that you guys are working together." And not to toot my own horn, but it's been really cool to interact with folks who either didn't know about Shredly before we started working together and I've introduced them to the brand, or people who were longtime fans of Shredly who were like, "Oh, I love them even more now because of our partnership." And it's just, it's cool.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one of my favorite things about working events with Marley is she just calls people out that are walking by and doing what she did at first. So I bet they don't have my size. She'll see someone look out of the corner of their eye and be like, I bet we have your size. And she'll call them over. And so Marley brings so many people into the fold. And what I loved about being at Seattle with Marley was all the people that came to fangirl on her. It was amazing because they were all bodies, different sizes, different shapes. And it was amazing to me that people they want to support a brand that offers all sizes. They want to support Marley for her mission of just making people feel like they belong. And so we have so much synergy there. And it's such a magical partnership that I love that people appreciate that they see we're a natural fit for each other, because I totally agree.
Yeah, it sounds funny that I'm like heckling people. We've got your size, like I'm
Yeah.
a carnival caller. But it is like, as a fat woman, as a bigger bodied person, I know that look in somebody's eyes when you look and you see the booth and you're like, oh, that stuff is really cool, but I'm sure they don't have my size. And you can read it on people's faces. When we were at Seattle, we wrote on the sign like sizes 00 through 24, and try not to be pushy about it, but really letting folks know that, yes, we really do have your size, and it will likely fit. And I don't think we had anybody come through that we didn't have something that would work for them, which was incredibly cool.
And I don't know if I told you, Marley, but we had this amazing email after from a woman who said, I'm not your average cyclist. My body's built not like your lean cyclist. And I had so much fun at the Shredley booth, and you made me feel like I belonged. You made me feel like I was kind of an insider, and I was really nervous to even go to Sea Otter by myself because I felt like I was a poser. And the fact that we can make somebody feel like they belong, like, that's so powerful. Not every brand can do that authentically. So I'm super grateful that we are able to do that for folks.
Yeah, it's such a cool thing.
Warm
Well,
fuzzies.
you say you're buzzing?
So it's warm fuzzies.
Oh, warm fuzzies.
Aw.
We got to get you in some Shredley stuff, Ellen. I think you would love it.
I'm
And they do make littles, and your kiddo would look incredibly cute in some dinosaur print stuff.
oh my God. I'm going.
Yeah.
I'll go right now.
Yes.
You guys finish this. I'm gonna do some e-shopping.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, wrapping up, we talked about shorts a lot, but Shredley makes all sorts of stuff now. So can you talk about that a little bit and maybe where the future of the brand is going?
Yeah, totally. So we obviously started with shorts. That was kind of our bread and butter. But as we see how our customers are using the product and the other things we're doing with it, we want to meet their needs. And so one of our goals is to not push product out, but have product be pulled from us and always have a reason for being. So we're never going to make things just to make them, but really trying to have a well-rounded collection. And one of those areas for us is lifestyle. So bike is such a lifestyle sport. And our shorts seamlessly transition off the bike. And so other products that kind of help fill those gaps has been really fun to design, which actually allows me to focus on some of my creativity originally that wasn't so outdoor focused. So really being able to bring some style into lifestyle products. So you'll see more of that from us, but also finding ways to make cycling more fun. So shorts is not a new thing. You can't reinvent the wheel of shorts all the time. Yes, you can bring fresh new patterns and colors, but what else can we do to make cycling more fun? And those are the products that we're focusing on. Those are the products that are selling really well. So like our biker sham with the scalloped edge, very different in the space, very unique. And then our romper is an example. Like, how do we make cycling more fun? Who doesn't want to wear a romper on a bike? And one thing that I can tease right now that we're launching this spring is, again, like using your critics to make your products better. Some people were straight up angry when we launched the romper, like about how they were going to pee. And so we have figured out a way that they can pee and they don't have to take the top off. So that's a hint.
To be fair, revolutionary for rompers. We have now transcended cycling.
Yes, exactly. I know, totally. So super excited about that. So really, and also always just keeping top of mind, like, how can we use this in many ways, solve the problems that we have in cycling, make really great product for cycling, but then how do you get bonus points if you can use it for more things than just cycling? Like, Marley, you were talking about the jumpsuit, the black jumpsuit. I'm wearing it right now. Tons of people wear it for date nights. So how amazing if you can make products for cycling that people are wearing for date night. That really excites me as a designer. And so I feel like there's always that challenge of like, how creative can I get with this without losing any functionality?
Yeah. Well, my last question, and I don't know if Ellen has any more, and I feel like Guy Raz, do you ever listen to How I Built This on NPR?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Guy Raz as I ask this, but for other folks who might see a need in their community and, oh, I'm going to start a business. Ashley did this incredible thing. What would your advice be to them?
Oh my gosh, I have so much advice for them. First of all, I think, do you ever watch Shark Tank?
Occasionally.
Okay, so if you watch that and you can answer a lot of those questions, like I can just imagine Mr. Wonderful being like, it's too easy to rip off, don't do it. You really have to ask yourselves those questions, because I do see a lot of people that so badly want to start a business in a certain space, but I think the product has to be pulled from the market. So if it's not solving a problem in the market and if someone else is already doing it, then I really challenge those people, like, really be super thoughtful. If you were to start a Kickstarter campaign, do you think it would be successful? And that was like our first litmus test, was that we are asking the public to support this product. And if our project is not successful, I think that means something. So have a few litmus tests so that you can test the space, because it is hard to start a business. It is not easy. You will not get a lot of sleep. Money will always be hard to figure out your financing, and so your product has to be really strong, and then you have to have tons of passion to get through all of those ebbs and flows. And so I that is maybe a little bit vague, but I cannot stress how important I feel like that is, to really, you have to have the killer product.
I think that is perfect advice. It all starts with the product.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and having a way to know, it's like, when do you cut and run? Or when do you keep going?
Yeah.
I don't have anything to add. Marley, thank you for bringing me into this, other than, yes, these rompers are hella cute. And it's like, I already wanted one, but then the one I'm looking at has little embroidery on the back pocket. First of all, has a back pocket. Second of all, has very cute embroidery on the back pocket that I am probably going to have to go buy. And third of all, this website, on the front page, the picture that you chose for a bike, like behind the bike, go into this stuff, it's a woman going down a mountain biking bridge, and she is almost like at a 180-degree angle, and it's just a badass photo. So if you go to Shredley's website for nothing else than that photo, it's well worth it, because it feels empowering, and I don't mountain bike. So I think it's just a good way of showing that you're here because there's, Marley said, like, it's more of a movement. It's more about making sure people feel good on what they're doing and how, like, when they want to do it. Yay. I'm very pleased to have been. I didn't really look at much of Shredley before we did this call, so
Bringing you in.
Bringing you in, exactly.
Out now.
don't tell Marley I didn't do my homework, but
Look at that real life conversion. Everyone is witnessing this.
Exactly.
But it's fun, and it's flirty, and it looks like something I want to wear. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
and it's durable. I have taken a couple spills and tumbles in my gear, and it is durable, which is great, and great customer support team. Thank you so much, Ashley. Thanks for our partnership, and thanks for coming on the podcast. I can't believe we haven't done this sooner.
Oh my gosh, I know. Thank you so much for having me. I have to give my team a shout out, because Ellen, the things that you were appreciating on the website, that's Camber. The customer care team that you gave a shout out to, Marley, that's Megan. So shout out to them, because they definitely help make all the magic. And Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay.
Yay.